Good morning and welcome to Morning Cafe. It is the 25th day of March 2025. You know, it is exactly 9 months to Christmas. Najua unapenda kufanya hiyo countdown. Maybe ishaanza exactly 9 months. Today is the feast of the Annunciation when, you know, they say when...
So what are you saying? If you want to have a baby on Christmas Day?
Today is the day. Today is the day. My name is Anne Odida. This is Morning Cafe.
My name is Fred Ndimuli. Karibuni sana as we take a look at the big headlines and kickstart your day the best way we know how.
All right, let's take a look at the local dailies. We start with Taifa Leo. Naishi jahanamu. Nani huyo? Aliyekuwa gavana wa Kiambu, Ferdinand Waititu.
All right. It's the same story on the front page of the Daily Nation. He's there, but the main headline is Uhuru's 26 billion shilling CBC blunder. That's the Daily Nation.
People Daily, inside state's plan to tame Matiang'i.
Standard goes with goons go on rampage. We'll be telling you more details on that.
Business Daily, Treasury to repay 114 billion shillings loans with Eurobond cash.
And finally, the Star multi-billion projects stall. That's the front page.
All right, of this Star. Let's take a look at the regional daily. All right, this is the conversation we'll be having.
Yes, starting at 6:30 this morning, we'll be having Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, alongside James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Senator Veronica Maina in studio as we take a look at the headlines this morning.
All
Later
right.
on, another discussion, myopia and technology. Are our digital habits hurting our eyes?
Absolutely, with Pfizer's side, that is an optometrist at DOT Glass, Kenya. All
right.
Let's cross over and take a look at our regional dailies. We start off in Tanzania. Gazeti la Jamhuri wanasema mfupa mgumu. Masuala ya siasa hii, Chadema waanza kuzunguka mikoani kufanya mikutano ya kuinadi no reform, no election. Butiku wasema serikali haiwezi kuacha kufanya uchaguzi mkuu kwa sababu ya Chadema, na Ananilea asema muda unatosha wa kufanya mabadiliko madogo ya katiba. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili wa gazeti hili. Kule chini, mbaroni kwa ujangili Mbomipa and Wachina wenye madubwi wakamatwa eneo la Tanzania. Gazeti la Jamhuri hiyo.
Tukisalia kule Tanzania, tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi na wasema bomoa makazi duni kutikisa mikoa 24. Na baadhi ya nyumba zilizopo eneo la Makangira, kata ya Msasani jijini Dar es Salaam. Ndio picha iliyo hapo. Wasema eneo hilo ni miongoni mwa maeneo 111 katika mikoa 24 yenye makazi duni yanayotarajiwa kuvunjwa na kuboreshwa kupitia upangaji upya wa mji. Picha ndogo hapa ni ya eneo la Maanga jijini Mbeya ambalo nalo nyumba zake zitavunjwa. What you call slums. Going to demolish slums in areas around Dar es Salaam and Mbeya, another 24 counties. Alafu watajenga mpya. Habari nyingine iliyopewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti hili, Daktari Slaa afumua mapya ya kina mdii Chadema, masuala ya siasa pale. Anasema vikwazo kwa wanawake kuwa mabaharia nchini ni habari nyingine iliyopewa kipaumbele pale. Pale chini kabisa kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti wanasema Tanzania na Kenya si maadui wala washindani kiuchumi. Si ni majirani tu.
Yes.
Gazeti la Mwananchi.
Tukisalia kule Tanzania, The Citizen, fish trade, why coastal regions trade lake zone. And while fish trade in the lake zone totaled to 66.5 billion shillings, that is Tanzanian money, during the quarter ended September 2024, it was only 38.4 billion shillings in the southeastern zone, which comprises Coast, Lindi, Mtwara, and Tanga regions. Anasema pale kwamba according to the latest consolidated zonal economic performance report for the quarter ended September 2024, the lake zone accounted for 36% of the total value of fish sold in registered markets compared to just 20.8% for coastal regions which have direct access to the Indian Ocean. Habari zingine, Tanzania and Kenya, not economic rivals, says Amson's chief. Same story pale.
Yeah, we're not rivals.
Yes.
We're just neighbors. Good neighbors.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, tunaona ile kitu ya stima wanataka tu kupitisha hapa. We can't be rivals. Yeah. Who is new Toweza head Ana Bwana? She has Ana Bwana.
Anaitwa Ana Bwana.
Ndo nimeload sai. Oh my goodness. She has over 15 years experience in designing and implementing adaptive governance programs and will officially take over on May 15. Ana Bwana.
Ana Bwana.
Government freezes park entry fees for 12 months. The story is on page 3, and that's The Citizen. Let's cross over to Uganda.
Start off with the new vision, matters education, as often is the case in Uganda. On the front page, government takes over fees collection in public schools. From July 1st this year, school fees and charges for requirements will be paid to URA. It's the equivalent of Kenya's KRA. Imagine paying school fees to KRA the way you pay taxes. Alafu from KRA, ndio sasa watadistribute hizo pesa kwa mashule. Hakuna kulipa shule ati wako na account. No.
I think that's nice.
Unalipa KRA.
Unaona jana tulisema kuna wenye kwa list of shame wanaambia wazazi walipe extra money.
Probably this is the way we'll go very soon.
Yeah.
We start paying directly. School fees unalipa through eCitizen directly to KRA.
Yes.
Yes. Other quick highlights there, 500 UPDF officers promoted. And HIV teens fight against stigma. Those are just some of the stories on the front page of this daily, the new vision in Uganda.
Daily Monitor, fresh fight over umeme buyout, and disagreement at the center of disharmony is the final buyout amount being contested by Electricity Regulatory Authority, power distributor, and claimant Umeme, and the Auditor General, who is to guide on the total payout. Now, the buyout amount that electricity distributor Umeme is seeking from the government is 853 billion shillings. 465 billion shillings is the money Electricity Regulatory Authority, that is ERA, says Umeme should be paid. Hawataipata stima kweli.
Uko nayo?
Na shida ni nini?
You know, we actually get a lot of electricity from Uganda. Usiongee vibaya, hawa majirani wakituzimia stima tutaumia.
All right, matters electricity given prominence here on the Daily Monitor, fresh fight over Umeme buyout. All right, Kainerugaba akisikia. Let's take a look at the weather situation.
Yes, and as you can see, there's a system around the Central Highlands in Kenya, Meru areas around Mount Kenya, dropping to the south, even Kitui getting a bit of that. Heading towards the southern part of Ukambani, there's a bit. This is generally around the Central Highlands in Kenya. Whatever was above the Lake Victoria yesterday, there was a lot of cloud cover there. Appears to have dropped further south into Tanzania. Central Tanzania towards the north, Shinyanga, Singida, Tabora areas are enjoying the rainfall today. And further south, areas like Mpanda. But in Kenya, at least something is forming around here. So we can start off with Meru. We see, because Meru is affected here, what exactly is happening there. It is 16 degrees Celsius as we speak. Yes, it is indeed a rainy day, 80% chance of rainfall, highs of 23 degrees, 12.2 millimeters of rainfall expected in Meru. Yes, so that cloud cover is definitely producing something. Rain likely around 1 p.m. today.
Mombasa?
We go further south to Mombasa.
27 degrees in Mombasa, feels like 31 degrees, partly cloudy through the day. Highs of 31 degrees expected in Mombasa today. Very, very cloudy indeed. Precipitation here, it's 1.5 millimeters, will be hardly felt. But wanasema kwamba tomorrow it will rain.
And Thursday probably.
Yes. Narok?
In Narok, it is a bit chilly, 16 degrees Celsius as we speak. Cloudy for the better part of the day, especially the morning, to give a change to a bit of sunshine and rainfall later. 2.2 millimeters of rainfall expected in Narok.
2.8.
Highs of 2.8, yes. 23 degrees Celsius, that's a highest temperatures that will be felt in Narok. Turkana.
It's 26 degrees in Turkana, feels like 28. This is very hot. 36 degrees expected today. That is the highs. Very cloudy, but very, very sunny as well. Hapa hata kuna mvua throughout the week. So precipitation here, 3.0 millimeters. All right.
I don't think it will be felt. Finally, Nairobi. It is raining as we speak.
Yes.
Yes, from where we are. We border Kiambu. 17 degrees Celsius as we speak. Slight cooling expected over the next 3 days. So we do expect chilly weather for the better part of the week. I think 24 degrees is what... Actually, 23 degrees is what we'll be feeling for the rest of this week.
Yeah.
So as far as rainfall is concerned, they're calling it light rain. Utanyeshewa tu. 3.8 millimeters of rainfall. I think the highest we've seen today is in Meru. But yes, cloudy throughout the day today.
All right. Masuala ya traffic, tumesema kunanyesha huko ambako tuko.
Now that kunanyesha in Nairobi, lazima italeta some challenges in as far as traffic is concerned. Let's take a look and see which areas are affected so far. It is still early in the morning, 9 minutes past 6. So Thika Road looking busy all the way from China Square, KU, past Githurai, down Kasarani and Ruaraka, but nothing to worry about, just matatus picking their passengers. But you can see just after the KCA University, that Utali Drift, Mathare Mental Hospital, it's building up slowly. You can see a long stretch of yellow there as you get into the Muthaiga area, Pangani interchange, which is still not as busy as it should be. Let's go to the eastern part of the city and we take a look at Kangundo Road, which you can see is quite busy all the way from Red Square Villas, Kayole area. On both sides of the road, matatus there picking and dropping off passengers. Areas around inaitwaje the next estate iko hapo. Komarok. Komarok Estate, yes. Matatus on both sides of the road as well as you get closer to that junction that goes to Mamalusi Hospital, and as you get closer to the outer ring road, both sides of the road are busy. Pale watu wenye wanaenda Ukambani na wale wanakuja Nairobi ni wengi. Outer ring road getting busy, but nothing to worry about. Areas around Feather and Pipeline, it is yellow as expected. Matatus pale. Shida ingine inakuanga hii area between outer ring road and Cabanas as you head towards Mombasa Road. A long stretch of red there because matatus usually occupy a very huge part of the road there. Let's see. Jogoo Road not looking bad at this hour. Makadara, nothing to report there. Mbotela area as well, nothing much. But the problem is getting here. Once you get closer to the City Stadium roundabout, you can see a stretch of red. On the opposite side of the road, Landis Road, as you get closer to that City Stadium roundabout as well, it's getting busy. Landis Road also, opposite, as you get towards town, opposite Machakos bus station, is getting busier. And Haile Selassie Avenue as well, around Marikiti area. Western side of the city, not looking bad. Langata Road, nothing to report. Southern Bypass is good. Ngong Road as well. And of course, Wayakiwe, all the way from Kabete past Kangemi, ABC Place into town, it's looking good. So, despite the rain, not much issue as far as traffic is concerned. It's exactly 12 minutes past the hour.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. We start off with the People Daily. Inside state's plan to tame Matiang'i, and Kenya Kwanza to pounce on the former powerful interior minister once he formally declares bid to run for the presidency in 2027. Wanasema kwamba 14 criminal charges to be framed against Matiang'i.
Ni kujipanga tu, mambo ni kujipanga my friend. Kama huyu ndio threat, tutajua vile tutampanga.
Wamesema former powerful interior minister.
Former.
Kweli ni threat. All right. According to People Daily, anasema kwamba 14 criminal charges to be framed against Matiang'i. Yes. Other stories here. RUTO moves to come Mount Kenya ahead of tour. Tulisema jana kulikuwa na vultures. Si kulikuwa wako vultures.
Wanangoja hiyo pesa.
Yes. Wanangoja tu pesa.
So akisema moves to calm, ana calm aje, ana pacify na nini?
Na nini?
Anatumia.
All right. Other top stories here. The top strip of the People Daily. Corporal kills man over pool game in Kawangware.
That is said to be the bodyguard, person or police officer assigned to the president's spokesperson, Hussein Mohammed.
Hussein Mohammed. All right, gold scam haunts Amadi as Charles Nyachai battle state project tag. Masala ya Iebc chairperson pale interviews that were happening yesterday. Wanasema kwamba the gold scandal and legal wars. Let's just take a look at it from this particular piece that I have here. Wanasema the gold scandal allegations, failure to fight corruption in the judiciary and ignoring court decisions are among the issues that came to haunt former Judiciary Chief Registrar Anne Amadi during her grilling for the position of chairperson of the electoral body. Charles Nyechai and Anne Amadi. Walikuwa wanne jana.
Yes, just 2 of the 4 who appeared before the panel yesterday. The interviews continue on day 2 today and will go on until tomorrow, so that they have 11 candidates in total for the chairperson's position. Yes.
We are expecting 4 others today as well.
All right. On the Daily Nation, Uhuru's 26 billion shilling CBC blunder is a big headline there. They say a 25.8 billion shillings World Bank project to build school infrastructure launched during former President Uhuru Kenyatta's second term has returned to haunt President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration as learners continue to suffer, with taxpayers now set to pay for the past mistakes of state officials as contractors take government departments to court. Yes, there have been delays. Mr. Kenyatta and his Education and Treasury CS ignored warning about this. That's the main story, and it is on pages 4 and 5. I think the most interesting, and you can see the face there on the front page, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu. He has grown tired, he says, of the monotonous head counts before daybreak, in the afternoon, and at sundown during the warders' shift changes. He is currently in prison. Now he's saying, what I've learned about life and friends. A journalist from this daily managed to get an interview, a sit-down interview with this gentleman. So anasema ile ukweli ya mambo vile uko huko ndani. Sema sio kazi rahisi.
Siwezi.
Hajazoea hii. He has special accommodation, yes, but kukaa kiamsho ahesabiwe. Because with every shift of the warders, you have to be counted afresh. And wajue watu wenye wako na watu wako.
Oh, wow.
You can read more about that on page 3 of the Daily Nation. So ni ukweli
yuko huko ndani?
Yuko huko ndani, yuko. Uko na ile picha.
You know, I actually saw that photo na mtu akaniambia Photoshop nini AI.
Yuko kule ndani. Kuppet coup on KNUT's 46,000 junior school teachers join a union. The story is on page 2. Other stories, Kanja promises impartial probe following man's fatal shooting by bodyguard of top State House aide. I think we've seen that on the front page of the People Daily as well. Kawira Mwangaza says my ouster is Ruto's only finished project in Meru. Kawira ameamua kuchoma sasa. Anyamazi tena.
Yeah.
Pale juu, of course, we've mentioned this IEBC interviews. Nyechai, Amadi, Lorot, and Ngeiwa face panel. Those were the first 4, and that story is on the back page of the Daily Nation. So, former Registrar Amadi tells selection panel that she's up to the task. The interviews definitely continue today with 4 other candidates appearing before the panel.
All right. Business Daily, Treasury to repay 114 billion loans with Eurobond cash. Now, the Treasury plans to repay syndicated loans worth $880 million. That is using the leftover cash from last month's 194 billion shillings Eurobond buyback. And Treasury CS John Mbadi said that the priority is refinancing the syndicated loans that are falling due in September and October in order to get the expensive interest rates off the government's books. KCB Group buys 75% stake in ex-FKF boss fintech firm. On the ticker, US says red tape leaks hurting Kenya's financial crime fights. And Trans-Century taps KPMG in Equity Bank debt restructure plan. Nairobi's prime go down, rents flat on manufacturing woes, and rental charges for prime warehouses in Nairobi have stagnated. New tracker data shows hit by slow industrial growth. Matters Business Daily.
All right.
Right. Namna gani? Baridi ama nini? Taifa Leo.
Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Habari kuu pale anasema naishi jehanamu. Waititu aliyekuwa governor anaishi gerezani maisha ya mbwa kwa upweke anakofanya kazi za mikono kila siku. Ananukuliwa hapa akisema gerezani si pahali pazuri, hakuna uhuru wowote, hakuna vifaa, na sasa ninajua vizuri sana rafiki zangu wa kweli. Unaona, ukiwa na mali kila mtu atakutafuta hadi ufikiri unadhibiti kila kitu, lakini huwa tunajidanganya kwani nimegundua watu huja kwako wakijua utayatatua matatizo yao. Ni aliyekuwa gavana. Ile picha ulikuwa unasema ya AI ndio hii hapa. Ilipigwa pale na simu na inasemekana maaskari wa jela wamekasirika sana, wamekasirishwa sana na tendo hili.
For real?
Yeah, wanasema mobile phones are not allowed in prisons. So whoever took that photo hawakubaliani na hayo kabisa, wanasema haifai kabisa. Mabusu Waititu ambaye anaishi na wafungwa wengine 5,000 asema maisha ya jela ya Kamiti ni sawa na moto wa jehanamu. Asimulia anavyotembelewa na wakora waliovaa vizuri wakidai wana ushawishi wa kumpa uhuru ila mamilioni ya pesa. Ila kwa mamilioni ya pesa. Wanasema some are asking for 15 million shillings, about 10 to 15 million, so that they can help him secure freedom. How exactly do you do that with 15 million? Sielewi. Vidokezo zaidi pale chini kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Iebc tuko tayari kwa kazi ya kifo. Wale 4 walio jitokeza jana, wengine wanaendelea leo. Mwangaza amrukia Rais Ruto, adai mradi pekee uliofanikishwa na Ruto Meru ni kumtimua katika mamlaka. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Mlinzi wa Hussein apiga raia risasi 7, ni habari nyingine pale. Na pale juu, balozi aliyefukuzwa na Trump atua. Afisa huyo alakiwa kwa shangwe, vifijo na nderemo nchini mwake Afrika Kusini. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 8. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
All right. The Star, gazeti la The Star nasema multi-billion project stall and funds wasted as citizens denied much needed development. Hizo stalled projects ziko hapo katika ukurasa wa 4 na 5 wa gazeti hili, lakini tuliona jana Ann Girishi akisema sana sana Kirinyaga County. Kuna a lot of stalled projects there. Nasema RUTO has really abandoned Kirinyaga. Bank smoking bully who killed mother over drugs cash jailed for 25 years. Bangi. Vijana.
Bangi tu.
Tuache
mihadarati. Vijana. Tuache mihadarati.
Hiyo ni Simple Boy ama nani? Simple Boy.
Ni Simple Boy.
Wow. And he was here last week. Matters Agribusiness, new tomato variety to boost yields and put cash in farmers' pockets. And that's the Star. Leonie Tuesday, not for sale.
Yes, and it comes with a complimentary MyGov pullout for government tenders and employment opportunities. Get yourself a copy of the Star. It is fresh, independent, different, and today you get it for free.
Absolutely.
The Standard. Tuliona zile video za MP wa Mumias East Salasi akifurushwa Nyayo Stadium. So they go with that. Goons on rampage. Go on rampage. Political intolerance, they call it. So a growing wave of targeted attacks against government critics is spreading across the country, defying the very essence of law and order. The perpetrators, who are bold goons, often chant slogans in support of top politicians as police stand and watch. This trend has raised concerns that Kenya's democratic space is shrinking, with dissenting voices facing greater threats. The story is on page 4, and they have different pictures there. The first one, hired goons attacking mourners at a funeral in Bibirioni village, Limuru, where former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was in attendance. The second one is the Mumias East MP from this Sunday, when he was attacked at the Nyayo Stadium during the Gabon versus Kenya match. And page 3, supporters of ex-Mungiki leader Maina Njenga when they stormed and disrupted a prayer meeting convened by Pastor Dorcas Rigathi at Kamukuji grounds in Nyeri. So these things have happened over the past few months. And they also quote a number of leaders pale chini. One of them, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, akisema, we won't always agree and that's okay, but respect, dialogue and unity must remain non-negotiable. If we let division win, we risk tearing down everything we hope to build. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says this is a very sad state of affairs and a major low for the state, which was clearly complicit in these actions. And finally, George Natembeya, the Trans Nzoia governor, says those hiring goons to attack government critics are doing so because they are serving their stomachs and not Kenyans. They are wasting their time. Even if we were to go silent, others would rise to take their place. Yes. On the back page, take it easy, son. At times we win, sometimes we lose. And for the first time, Harambee Stars' new coach, Benny McCarthy, hugging one of the Stars players, William Lenkupai, following their 2-1 loss to Gabon on Sunday. And take it easy, usijali. Take it easy, son.
That's a beautiful
Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Yes.
All right, let's go direct to masuala ya caricature. We start off with the People Daily. Anaambiwa daktari, listen to the heartbeat of the ground.
Hata sio heartbeat, heatbeat.
Heartbeat.
Ile joto, ile moto inawaka huko chini. Unasikiza ground kweli? Ako hapo na stethoscope anasikiza ground.
Nani anamwambia huyo?
Huyo ni the fourth president.
Yes.
The fourth.
People Daily.
The Standard hapa wameka Trump. Analipua mabomu Yemen na Gaza. Ni kulipua tu. Today it's the cartoon Harry. So imechomoka. Nothing to do with Kenya, but American politics and their president who wants to do everything everywhere, anytime. President Donald Trump.
The Red Sea scandal.
Vilipuzi tu.
Yeah, this is the Star bado matters mountain tena today. Na naanguka na nini pale. A caricature there of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The crown is falling.
Ameshikilia mitego huko kila mahali.
You know? Of course, this is a caricature of the president akiwa kwa hiyo gari yake.
Najaribu kupanda mlima. Na hiyo gari. Je, atapanda?
Yeah, that's the question.
Jumapili alikuwa pande mlima hakupanda.
In his defense, alikuwa ameenda safari rally, akakuwa ameenda Arambe.
Ile chopa inaweza toka hapa hadi anywhere in 40 minutes or less.
I have done my best.
Matters Iebc forming the perspective here on this cartoon on the Daily Nation. How well do you handle pressure? They have a seat there with Mtego wa panya, lakini hii kiti ni Electoral Commission chair. Ile ukuta iko ndani ya ofisi imekulwa. Unajua when you're going through stress, unakula hadi mawe, unakula ukuta. So anasema it's a lot of pressure for this job. 11 candidates have been shortlisted. They're being interviewed. Yesterday, 4 of them were interviewed. Today, 4 more will be appearing before the panel, and tomorrow 3. Then at least we'll know from the 11 who stands a chance or who will be the next chairperson of the Iebc. Remember, there are about 105 others.
Yes, 105 commissioners
who will have to be interviewed to form the other part of the team.
Yeah.
About 4 more.
Yeah.
They could get to about 7 or 9.
Yes.
Yes, if they get to 9, then watakuwa wengi. So from the 105, they could only get probably about 8 commissioners. Then with the chairperson, they make it 9.
Kazi kwao.
How well can you handle pressure? So this is just some of the big discussions we'll be having, and of course the headlines today locally. For my panel after the break, Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Veronica Maina, a nominated senator, will be in studio for that discussion.
Later on, we'll be talking to Pfizer Cider and optometrist at DOT Glass Kenya on myopia and technology. The question you're asking today is, are our digital habits hurting our eyes?
Right, and because I can see we have about a minute or so, we can go back to traffic and take a look at the traffic situation now. Yes, and you can see Thika Road building nicely, a long stretch of yellow all the way from Kasarani to the Garden City Mall. After that, it gets busier around KCA University. That Utalii drift is very slow at this time of day because, yes, unaangalia hapa, this is actually the biggest problem in traffic in Nairobi. Acha niwachoree leo technology tuone kama itakubali.
It is.
Basi ndio huyu hapa. Bakubali. Yes. This is the area that you should be worried about if at all you're using Thika Road or Kiambu Road, Pale Muthaiga interchange, and getting also into Murang'a Road or even Forest Road. It's very busy at this time of day. Other areas that are probably experiencing a lot of traffic, tuangalie Jogoo Road. Yes, Jogoo Road is building nicely now. You can see this long stretch of red from Makadara all the way to Mbotela. Yes, hapa ndio kuna shida pale. Once umetoka Buruburu, ukienda tu pale Kotini, hapo kuna traffic. Once you get into town, Landis Road has cleared up. So we had seen a bit of red around here, Machakos bus station, even Haile Selassie Avenue, because cops are there and they're directing traffic. So not much to worry about from that angle. Ukiangazia Mombasa Road, pale Nyayo roundabout, that's where we experience some slow traffic all the way. Pale karibu na the Nairobi West Hospital, Nyayo Stadium roundabout, pale ndo kuna traffic. Other areas kuna traffic pale sioni sana. Sasa imeenda upande mwingine. Right. On the other side of town, Waiyaki is looking good all the way into town. Wale watu wa Waiyaki huwa hawapati traffic. So the biggest problem we can see ni pale Pangani interchange and Thika Road because it's quite slow. All right, so that's the traffic situation as at 29 minutes past 6.
Meanwhile, interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE on X. My handle is at @an_leader.
Mine is at Fred Indimuli. My guests are already in studio. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, and Senator Veronica Maina. We'll be discussing with them the headlines this morning. What else would you want us to talk about? Kindly share with us on our social media pages. My handle is at Fred Indimuli. Good morning.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on the Greenfix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on the Greenfix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upward, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. And I should say good morning once again. My name is Fred Indimuli. This is a State of the Nation, a look at the big headlines and the big discussions. Of course, today being day 2 of the interviews for candidates who are shortlisted for the position of chairperson of the IEBC. It is one of the stories covered here at TV47 as well. Before I introduce my panelists, let's watch the Iebc Reconstitution interviews then we continue with the conversation.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
The Independent Election and Boundaries Commission selection panel Monday morning began the process to interview 11 shortlisted candidates for the position of chairperson in its quest to fill the late Wafula Chebukati's position. After her tenure at the judiciary last year, former Chief Registrar Anne Atieno Amadi appeared before the Nelson Makanda-led panel, where she denied any involvement in a gold scam, linking it to a law firm she worked for before assuming her judicial role.
It is alleged that you and other persons who are at the center of the gold scandal defrauded a British citizen of more than $100 million paid to the purchase of 1,500 kilograms of gold.
That's correct. There was actually no reason for me to be in that case and named as the first respondent because the firm that is, I resigned from it in 2014. And I was very busy in the judiciary. There was no time even to go and, get into any kind of practice.
Amadi dismissed her inclusion in the case, noting that she had no connection to the firm's dealings during the time in question, even as she described the accusations as a targeted attack.
So for me, it was a malicious attack, and which is something that is, when you're in public service, you must be ready for. Public service at certain levels is not for the faint-hearted. So it was an attempt to shake me, an attempt to mudsling my reputation because I've upheld my integrity.
Amadi's personal bank accounts and those of her legal practice were frozen by the High Court in order to stop any more transactions. While the issue was being resolved, the High Court, however, removed the freeze in June 2023, stating that there was insufficient proof that she had any involvement in operations of the legal practice.
I was very conscious of the fact that IEBC is also very high voltage before I consulted within myself and decided that I wanted to give it a try.
On his side, former Constitution Implementation Committee Chairperson Charles Nyachae defended his resignation from East African Court of Justice, saying the court hardly executed its mandate due to financial constraints.
A judicial position that does not have a similar pressure like this. Are we going to have our chairman resign before end of day?
East African community for the last 3 years has struggled almost to the point of becoming dysfunctional.
The former East African judge said he does not anticipate IEBC ever encountering a comparable circumstance.
I do not anticipate those sort of problems if you were to give me the chance to be chair of the commission, so the issue wouldn't arise.
At the tail end of this process, the selection panel will provide only 2 names to President William Ruto, who will be expected to select only one candidate that will be made the next IEBC chairperson for the next 6 years. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, today is day 2 of those interviews. 4 more candidates to appear before the IEBC selection panel. Tomorrow, 3 more will appear, and by the end of that, they'll have to pick one chairperson of the IEBC. 105 other candidates hoping to also be interviewed for the other positions to be filled in the commission. But even as we continue, allow me to introduce my panelists once again. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, karibu sana. Thank you. Yes, Senator Veronica Maina is with us today. Karibu sana, Senator.
Asante sana.
And James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, is also with us. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Yes, when it comes to the IEBC selection or reconstitution, the biggest debate has always been the haggling and the fact that many political parties wanted to be part of the process. Now, the selection panel was finally constituted. They are engaging in this. But there are concerns that when the selection panel was formed, parties like ODM and Kenya Kwanza were on different sides. And they managed to get their people in the selection panel. But as we speak, as the interviews continue, ODM and Kenya Kwanza are on one side. Don't you think that probably now it's a bit lopsided in favor of the new working arrangement between President William Ruto and Raila Odinga?
Once again, viewers, I think it would be unfair to imagine that the selection panel as is currently constituted, will be biased towards picking certain candidates. And it's a very good thing that even these interviews are being live, and many Kenyans can actually judge for themselves. We are now in an era where people have got voices, and I can assure you that if the selection panel comes up with names that we suspect did not qualify or did not meet the minimum threshold, then we'll go back to the streets. But listening to some of the interviews yesterday, I was a bit disappointed because the panel seems to focus on non-issues. I ask myself, what is IEBC? What have been the teething problems in the previous bodies? What are the constitutional deadlines we've not met? Like, for example, delineation of boundaries. We have serious issues of conflict between the CEO and the chairman. None of the panelists was focusing on those. They were looking at other things, bank accounts and non-issues, really. I think the panelists should be serious and ask these people questions that heavily rely or heavily focus on the work that they intend to do. Otherwise, if you start talking about some things that don't make sense, then we start wondering whether the panel is actually competent enough, in my view.
Okay.
And so we hope as we go forward, the panel will be serious and ask questions that make sense to us.
Okay. Senator, of course, as Bwana Maduku says, even you look at the media and the focus is on issues around integrity, matters of corruption and any other allegation that may have been leveled against any of the candidates so far. Should that be really the focus of this process, or is the ability of this person to handle the amount of pressure that comes with the seat of chairperson?
There are many dynamics they need to look at as the selection panel. And one of those dynamics is the core competencies of the candidates. They must meet the basic criteria. If they don't meet the basic criteria, including their academic qualification, their aptitude tests, the ability for an individual to handle pressure and work almost unsupervised, work for long hours, their networking capacity, coordination, the ability to coordinate a country-wide process is so important and so core, because you'll find that the kind of capital required to pull through elections, general elections, is a huge outlay of human capital. So the ability to do proper networking, be very persuasive yet very firm, free of any issues that would impugn corruption or check out their character. Those are very important and critical questions that need to be considered. More importantly, when I look at our late chairman of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, you can already tell the kind of pressure that seat can put on an individual, even on the family of the individual. So when the candidates come in, what I would expect, especially between the large political parties, because they understand the dynamics and how divisive our politics can be, this is not the time to play buddy-buddy. It's a time to assume, to remember the kind of situation Kenya is usually in during elections, and then do the very best they can do, assuming that the elections are very contested. They must make that basic assumption. If they don't make that basic assumption, I can promise you, Dimuli, they can very easily miss it. Yes. I don't want to say that I have a trust deficit, because one of the problems we are suffering as Kenyans is having a situation where many people seem to have trust deficit in everything. They won't trust, even when you fix for them a cup of coffee, they still ask, is that coffee or tea or herbal tea, even when it's obvious. So we need to show more confidence in the panel, but to remind them that the contestation during elections in Kenya is so high that ODM and Kenya Kwanza must stand their foot, assume they are not agreeing because they are the largest political parties or coalitions, and now do the best they can to bring in a candidate. It is very possible because they must assume, you see, these are the biggest contenders in the next elections, if at all. They must assume the scenario we had in 2022 is the same scenario we have in 2027, or even a little bit more contested than, hotly contested than what we had in 2022. Once you assume that scenario, you look at an individual, a character that can withhold that kind of level of contestations with firmness and an ability to induce a lot of assurance to both political divides. If they don't assume that, they most likely would end up with a candidate who may not be able to handle that pressure. And the last thing you want when we are sailing through a general election is a candidate who cows in, or a candidate for a chair position who doesn't quite feel the grasp of the job, or doesn't have the real grip of the issues that would be running on their desk. And they have to be very sharp in terms of their legal analysis, understanding of constitutionalism, the ability to have an inclusive approach in issues, the ability to work with all the commissioners on board, and one who drives a lot of confidence and assurance among the Kenyan populace.
Okay. I hear you, Senator, but Bwana Gakuya, the kind of division we've seen even inside the commission, obviously sometimes fueled by even the political allegiances. Right now, the concern is that the current working relationship between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto could be very influential in the outcome of this IEBC selection process. Do you share any concerns that probably if things were different, the process would have been better? Probably if Raila Odinga was still leading the opposition, that probably the selection of or reconstitution of IEBC would have been a better process?
Thank you, Admori. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are watching this morning show from. And coming to the matter on the headlines, let me state very clear that the process to fill the gaps of the commission, where the chair and the rest of the team of commissioners process has to to constitute the whole bench. I would like to say that it's a process which has been a lot of outside influences. And you remember very well, very small, tiny things has become a thorn in the flesh and has delayed this process for long, to a tune of even taking a matter to judicial processes. And this tells you how there these particular oppositions are. And for now, as we have witnessed the coming together of former Prime Minister and William Ruto, even though that on their combined efforts, we will see the outcome of this process. This does not mean that actually they are the core to this. Don't forget that, in fact, we have other people who we can call today opposition, because already Raila has pronounced himself to be in the government, and therefore he's no longer an opposition leader. But there is opposition. And for sure, counting Gachagua as the strongest opposition, carrying the magnitude number of voters behind him, and equally the team, including Kalonzo Musyoka and the rest of Wamaro and Karo and the rest. And this tells you we cannot have a process that will only suit the interests of two. And therefore, we are very confident that when the two are satisfied, then the whole nation is satisfied. This is not the case. And I can tell you what the process should be. The process should be very neutral, very impartial, so that, in fact, the whole image of the nation can be confident that the process is the right process.
Are you confident? Are you confident to the current?
I am not, because I am still seeing a big heart on that particular process. And I can tell you, even at the end of the day, the results will be how the mighty we want the results to be.
Yes.
This should not be the case, because for sure, this is not how we should treat the processes. Should be a very independent process, because we are looking for a result that tomorrow nobody will come out to say the results are biased, because we went on a route where we selectively or skewedly found candidates that were not the right candidates, even to the image of the public.
Yes, yeah. And definitely it will be very hard to shrug off those that kind of perception that these two gentlemen were the main antagonists in 2022. Partly even in 2013 and 2017, because William Ruto was on the other side and Raila Odinga in every election contested the result and even accused the Iebc of some issues. Now that they're on one side, that definitely changes perception from Kenyans that it may not go the way we expect.
You cannot take away the fact that Kenyans, obviously out of their past experience, will always remain suspicious. But I want to repeat what I said, that I think at this point in time, we need to have a level of confidence and give credit to the fact that already the interviews are being aired live. And I'm asking Kenyans to be vigilant and look out on the performance of each of those interviewees with the ultimate aim of having a parallel scorecard. So if the panel suggests names that we think did not qualify, then we have a recourse, including making a petition to the court. Let us not preempt the outcome. That is my view. Because, and don't forget, the election system is quite complicated and is very elaborate. And at every stage is covered by law, right from the presiding officers to the returning officers, all the way to the chairman. So the fact that we are just picking the commission should give us a level of confidence that we already have the necessary infrastructure. What the commission should now be focusing on after the Reconstitution, I think, in my view, is to deal with a new register. And that is what will make us judge their goodwill. They must create a new register from scratch. Take the old register and put it in the dustbin. And they should create a register that is tech-enabled, which we can monitor, which can be accessed by everyone in Kenya. And on a daily basis, if not hourly basis, we should be able to track the number of people getting into the register. That way, we'll start getting confidence that the dead voters will not find their way into the register that we currently have. They should also embark on the issue of the boundaries. Start doing public participation, and never mind, this may not apply in the year 2027, but I think they should show the goodwill that they understand their mandate. But more than that, they must sort out the conflict that is inherent between commissioners and the secretariat. Then that way, regardless of who is picked, we start seeing that they understand their work and that they have the ability to deliver a credible and verifiable election in 2027 and beyond.
Okay, it's exactly 28 March to August 10th, 2027, the date of the next election. So much expectation on the team that will be finally constituted. Ideally, and this has been suggested, that ideally any commission should be in place at least 3 years before the next election. We are way short of that. Do you think that it will be possible, given the kind of work already pending for the commission, the by-elections, issues around boundaries delimitation and review, do you think that this time is enough for this new team to actually prove itself?
To my mind, they don't have a choice. We have to get a very competent commission, because they're lagging behind the cycle. You know what happens is that elections have a cycle of 5 years, and every day counts. And it has such a time clock that when time moves, as we near 2027, there will be no excuse for commission to do a bad job. The expectation, a legitimate expectation by Kenyans, is that the commission will live up to the constitutional expectations, constitutional stipulations that require them to render a credible accountable, transparent process of election that brings in the candidates that occupy public offices. So they won't, let me first say they won't have a choice. But because time is ticking and the clock has really moved, we did not meet the deadline for the review of boundaries. It means that much more work is on the offing, is on the table for the commission. And if you look at the IEBC amendments that were done just the other day, the IEBC Act that was amended, the amendments came on board that then enabled the selection panel to be put in place and the process to continue, and thankfully the cases to be resolved and the matter to move to the next step. Then you get the feeling that if we don't get a chair who is very diligent and very competent, there is a likelihood that the commission may fall below the standards that we would expect as Kenyans, but I do not want to speculate in a pessimistic manner. We have to be very optimistic and to also wish the chairman and the commissioners who come on board the very best. But what the secretary should now be doing on issues of register, for instance, the secretary should really be preparing, because they are the functions of the secretariat. And I hear this conflict between the chair or the commission and the secretariat being repeated again and again. But what we need to understand is that once the functions of the chair are well defined within the legal framework, the functions of the commissioners are also equally well defined. We should not have that confusion or that overlap that then leaves us not knowing whether these commissioners can make a decision or not make a decision in the absence of the chairman who should be able to take over the commissioner. We should not have those areas are the ones that cause the IEBC Act to be amended. So what we would expect is this, on the register, even if you were to delete that whole register today and start another new register, as at today, by the time we come to 2027, it still needs to be tidied up, because between now and 2027, you'll find a few of maybe the voters who are on that register have passed on, or they have migrated, or something has just happened that has caused the person, or they have moved from one location to the other location. So cleaning up the register is a continuous process. It's not like a one-time action. Even if you deleted the whole of the register, myself, as a practitioner, as a former Secretary General of the UDA, I interacted very heavily with the process, electioneering process. And my view is that it's not the register right now we need to delete. What we need is an audit on that register to establish the status, because a lot of resources have gone into the building of that data, and then to ensure that it's cleaned up. Because whatever register you have, it has to get into the KIMS kit. And now we have other features that have been put within the system. The Electoral, the IT part of it has ensured, technology part of it has ensured that we have sorted out identification. We can tell which station you're at. When you vote once, you should not vote twice. Those are the checks that we need to have within the process, which can then render a credible process that then produces candidates who are credibly voted in by the people. So for me, I would say it's a lot of work to the secretariat, and we equally need a very good secretariat led by a very competent CEO.
Okay. The cracks we saw in the commission, the last commission we had, where we had the Cherera 4 and the chairman and another clique moving away. Should we expect that going forward? The fact that there are very many political allegiances and alliances even within the commission. Should we expect a repeat of that?
Indeed. What I can tell you this morning is that there is a likelihood of the same scenario to repeat itself, because this was not caused by the commission itself. It was clearly outside influence. And that's why I have just said from the beginning that the influence even to nominate the candidates has a lot of outside influence. And the outcome will be an influenced outcome. This is true and very clear. And that's how critical elections are. And everybody who has an intention to contend, and especially from the top, actually the preparation starts from here. So you must have a very good contact with who will be the announcer of the results. And this has to be, whether we like it or not, well, that's how it will work under the carpet. And that's true. One, people have to lay allegiance to a particular angle. And I can tell you, it is possible to have the same scenario. And I can tell you, it was so good in the last election that we had strong men and very bold ones who could not be swayed to move the route that actually the state was pushing them. And that is what we need. We need such bold, strong members of this commission. Otherwise, if we are going to have what we call yes sir candidates of the commission, I can tell you Kenyans can expect nothing. But I can tell you, if the process can be bold and strong from the beginning, from the panel, then gives the candidate a strength, because a candidate knows there was no godfather who influenced me to capture the position. But if you are through an influence route, then you know your master must sometimes be calling shots and telling you this should be the way to go. We could not have gone the route that we realized during Chelela and the chairperson if there was no allegiance of a particular election. And that's why we were able to see a split, complete split, and it is quite possible even in the next election. Because to enable that, it is now when we should seal that gap. If we fail to seal the gap now, we have a chair that's a chair who has a side from the beginning, then you cannot expect a clear strength of the commission at the end.
All right. Yes, it is exactly 28 months and 2 weeks to the date of the next election. Whether this IEBC will be able to manage the amount of work it has remains to be seen. Probably we'll have a commission by the end of April, according to rough estimates. I want us to move to another discussion.
Fred, before you move out of that topic, maybe mine would be to even assure Kenyans of one thing. The selection panel that has been put together, you know the names are proposed from different corners, from different stakeholders.
Including political parties.
Including political parties. But political parties have not taken the giant of that selection panel. There are many other actors who have sent their representatives on that selection panel. The combination of the individuals was not contemplated. It depended on who will be appointed to go and represent whose interests on that selection panel. Meaning what? They may not have an automatic consensus on a candidate. They would have to use what they are now looking at, the interviews, the qualifications. They'll have to use what is on the table and what is presented by the candidates in order to determine whether we have a suitable candidate. And if they find a suitable candidate, then they'll be able to appoint a chair. If they don't find a suitable candidate, they equally should be competent enough to say we have not found a suitable candidate. But to even assume that as at now, we have one factor external outside the selection panel who will influence, that then would be a very weak selection panel because they are protected in law, and even the chairperson and the commissioners will have constitutional protection. So there is no Kenyan who will be bequeathed with the responsibility of becoming chairperson of IEBC who will then tell us later that I cowed under pressure. No, they have a protection within the constitution, and it is their mandate to determine the outcome of the election based on the vote.
Before we cross from that chapter, let me remind Kenyans well. We had what we call a Gachagua purge, and we witnessed a late night constitutional panel, which also held their first meeting on a Saturday. How could you expect this for a particular reason? Through what we call outside influence. Yes. And this is what we are saying, that particular arm is still allowed. Yes. It's not gone.
And you must agree, you talked about the trust deficit that Kenyans have.
Yeah.
Yes, and probably that's why we have all these issues. Allow us to go on a break, Bwana Manduku. Let's take a short break. We'll be back right here on Morning Cafe to continue the discussions.
world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on the Greenfix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on the Greenfix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and
All right, welcome back. We continue the discussions here, and during the break we were just assessing how things have changed on this panel. That sometime last year, Bwana Gakuya was a defender of the government that he now opposes, and Daniel Manduku was on the other side, and now the roles have changed.
That's how the politics move.
All right.
It is politics.
They change every day.
Yet Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, insists that he's not in government right now. Bwana Manduku, you're defending the same government. Let's watch what Raila Odinga said yesterday. It is part of the stories we have on TV 47. Raila Odinga saying, I am not in government.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga, despite a growing camaraderie between him and President William Ruto, in any given opportunity, he has consistently maintained that he is not part of the Kenya Kwanza government. Odinga has continued refuting the claims despite a publicly displayed signing of a working pact with President William Ruto raises eyebrows, sparking widespread speculation about his evolving political role. Monday, in a meeting with China Ambassador to Kenya, KAHIGA, the ODM leader insisted not being part of the Kenya Kwanza government. The attendance of Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi at the meeting further fueled discussions, given his position as a key government official.
So we have just done a review of this, and as you know, it's ongoing discussions between the government of China and the government of Kenya. But I'm not part of the government. Therefore, I'm only concerned about mutual relationship between our two countries.
The discussions with the Chinese ambassador reportedly revolved around infrastructure and economic cooperation, areas where China has been a significant partner for Kenya.
There's a very good cordial relationship between Kenya and China, both in the fields of trade, fields of industrialization, the fields of cultural exchange, and so on.
However, the political undertones of the meeting were hard to ignore. Mwigi William, TV 47.
So over the past 1 week or so, the former Prime Minister has had meetings with the Chinese envoy, the ambassador from the United Kingdom, and the United States as well. But he says he's not in government. During these meetings, senior government officials, including CSs, have attended at Raila Odinga's private office. What exactly are we communicating here? ODM signed an MOU with President William Ruto. The former Prime Minister is holding high-level meetings representing this government, but he's not in government.
Fred, I don't wish to speak for my party leader. And I've always made it very clear that we, members of the Orange Democratic Movement, after signing the agreement, are supporting the government. Now, whether supporting the government or being in a government is one and the same thing is left to your interpretation. Who meets envoys from the UK, USA, and China? Have you seen them going to see the Deputy President? Have you seen them going to see Kalonzo Musyoka? Whether support for government or being in government is one and the same thing, again, is left to your interpretation. I told you very well here, and I want to repeat, that we were coming into this government for nusu mkate. we have not yet gotten what we want, but I think it is work in progress. And we are optimistic that eventually we shall be squarely in government. And we are not pretending about it, I told you. And I told you again, I don't speak for the party, but I speak as an ODM member who represents a constituency which is heavily Orange Democratic Movement. Never mind as to whether we are in government or we are supporting government. What we are focusing on now is a 10-point agenda. And we want that agenda, which we support, to bear fruits for our people. And we have been very categorical that immediately we want to start seeing, want our people to start harvesting 4 critical areas. 1, infrastructure, energy and roads. 2, health. 3, education. And 4, economy. Now, I've said myself, I'm going to make an implementation matrix as Member of Parliament for Nyaribari Masab and see what trickles down to my constituency in those 4 areas as a result of supporting this arrangement. And we have said this arrangement can be reviewed with time. And in 1 year, we shall review it again, whether being in it makes sense or we have other alternatives.
Okay, and I hear the undertones there. It's this lack of clarity that's causing a lot of this, probably the perception that we're really not clear on what is happening here.
Indimuli, I beg to differ completely with the remarks made by Honorable Raila Odinga. Because, and to simplify it for Kenyans, for myself, and I don't speak for the party or for the president, I'm speaking my understanding of what's happening. You cannot have your cake and eat it at the same time. You have to choose whether you are having it here or you are eating it. In my mind, I am very clear. Raila is in government. He's in government because he's already given CSs who are serving within the government, and they have his blessing. If you look at the people who have appeared in that clip that you have shown here, the extract, I have seen CS for Finance, John Bundy, standing by his side. He has his blessing. We have the Minister for Energy, the Cabinet Secretary for Energy, and we have Wycliffe Oparanya, CS also for cooperatives. All of them are drawn from the ODM. So to say yes, these are CSs within government, but we are not in government, that even leaves me confused. Leave the Kenyan.
We are waiting for
the ordinary Kenyan. Leave the ordinary Kenyan
we'll declare
alone,
once we are
whom we
inside.
can allow to say they are not sure. Me, myself, as Veronica Maina, Senator, a lawyer, fully trained, I will get very confused when he says we are not in government. So where does that leave our understanding? Let's leave simple things to be simple things, and what we are seeing. If we see a man marrying off a girl, we can only assume there is a marriage. If she's wearing the white robe, they're walking down the aisle, we say that's a marriage that has been solemnized today. So if we see CSs, we see PSs, appointment of PSs, chairs of committees in Parliament, some of them now have gone to the ODM, then you cannot quite say I'm not in government. That may not sound accurate
Does
to
it
me.
also speak to the type of relationship they have? That
what we have right now, you hear what is called broad-based government. And both sides have talked about broad-based government. And that's government, and that's the one that is in Kenya right now. So for me, I would say, to simplify for Honorable Raila, is to just tell him he's in government. If he doesn't know what he has done already is to get him into government, he's already in government. And CSs drawn from his side are making decisions in this government. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, and I'm not saying that it's to be condemned. Anyway, all of them are Kenyans. What we are saying is, at least on a bare minimum, admit you're part of the equation so that as Kenyans, we can be able to move on. And when we come back to hold responsibility on who has done what, if those CSs perform well, we'll clap for you and we'll compliment. And this is one other thing that as Kenyans, we should learn to do. When people do well, clap for them. and compliment them so that they can have more energy to do better things.
Okay.
If they do wrong, we will also say, if that ministry they are holding is going down, we will not hold another CS accountable. If it is Opio and I, if it is CS Mbadi, we will hold each of them accountable for the dockets which they stand in.
Okay.
So they are in government and you are in government, and so better do your very best.
At one of the principles,
be called to account.
One of the principles is he's not in government.
He is in government. He is in my view.
ODM and Raila Odinga appear to be, as a senator says, they want to have their cake and eat it as well. They want the trappings of power and the enjoyment and benefits that come with government and big positions, but not with the responsibility or accountability because they are not in government. Do you agree with that kind of thing?
Idimoli, I would just say the characteristics of former Prime Minister is actually, I can call it the brokership. It was for sure. There is no way you can, in one leg, you are inside, and the other leg, you are outside. How can you be? You must be in one position in one time. And therefore, I would just call him to even move from the positions that he's holding in the chamber of the minority, because he's no longer a minority. You are already in bed in the government, so close the bench. Yes, leave those other who are left with that particular image of opposition to assume the position of minority in the House. Goes so surely. What kind of, our standing order does not even allow this. So it is illegal. And I can comfortably say it is illegal because it is nowhere, neither in the standing order nor in the Constitution. It is not envisaged anywhere. That kind of mix is nowhere. You cannot be the minority, holding the position of the minority, and still you are holding positions of the government at the same time. This is not possible. You have the cabinet positions, you have the PS positions, you have the departmental chairmen in the House, which the standing order does not envisage. Then they're telling us you are fooling Kenyans, and it's totally bad. Raila should close and he should not keep fooling Kenyans. Just be where you are, because you are no longer an opposition leader. You are in the government, you are already gone to bed. So be where you are and be comfortable.
And you could see even the reporter who made that report began by referring to Raila Odinga as the opposition leader. That confusion persists not just in the media sphere, in parliament, even in government.
Fred, if we get to that
argument,
we cannot finish that argument. Because when we went for the elections, we got members of parliament who were affiliated to our coalition, which was Azimio, which still is Azimio. You know very well, Fred, that the speaker in his ruling found out or determined that Azimio was the minority. The matter has since been taken to court, and the court has pronounced itself that Azimio is actually the majority. Never mind, the Court of Appeal upheld the decision of the High Court. So if Mheshimiwa Wakuya starts that argument, then we should actually be the majority, first of all.
Take the majority position.
But never mind, we are now in a relationship. It's not a marriage.
It's a hybrid.
It is a cohabitation. We are cohabiting. If and when we get what we want, which I've said clearly, is half the government, then we shall call it a full marriage.
Of an abusive partner in that relationship. That
who is abusing? Oh, no, they are happy.
They are happy. They are very happy with us.
There is an MOU. And if you listen to some of the clips extracted from the speeches from the Secretary General of ODM, Senator Sifuna, my very distinguished colleague at Senate, you'll hear they clarified very well, this is not a coalition, so let's not mix issues. In terms of whether ODM has shut its doors to enter Kenya Kwanza, that is not the position. They are very clear. And that is determined once again, political coalitions are determined once again by the Political Parties Act. And you know, that one, there is a clarity. Azimio is Azimio, Kenya Kwanza is Kenya Kwanza. And there are those parties who have deposited instruments at the Register of Political Parties showing who is coaliting with who. One of the clarifications which I had when the MOU was being signed at KICC, one of the clarifications that was singled out by Senator Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM, is that this is not a coalition. It's a working framework. It's a working arrangement.
It's a new terminology.
So in terms of deciding whether ODM has, so that we don't mix the two, because I'm seeing as mixing the two.
Okay.
What I've said is the executive part of it, especially. That one, ODM is in government.
All right.
But the executive part, in terms of service, the Azimio has joined and is also holding some of those positions.
That were
but
initially,
when it comes, yes,
even in the House of legislation, some of those positions have traditionally been left probably to the majority side.
Yes.
You must accept that that has since changed.
So that has since changed.
Yes.
A lot has changed. And to define who is a majority and who is a minority, it's defined in law. Do you get? Who becomes the majority in parliament is the one with the largest number of members within the houses. Are we together?
Documented.
So whoever documented.
Because people can simply cross the aisle and go to the other side.
If you look at those MPs and senators, each is brought into parliament by a specific political party and none has ceded their seats. So you cannot go to Manduku and tell him he's Kenya Kwanza. So we distinguish the two. But when you come to the executive, where we have the CSs, where we have the ministers, that's where I'm saying ODM has joined.
Do you get the clarity there?
In fact, what I want to differ completely is that, yes, let us agree there was an agreement which was signed between the ODM and the UDA. Then this is not the main coalitions, because originally ODM has been known as a new coalition, and where UDA is known as Kenya Kwanza coalition. But this was two parties, the UDA and the ODM. The signing of the agreement was based on two parties. But the question is, do Wakili want to tell us that actually whatever memorandum was signed that day was launched to the registrar of political parties to get binding? Because if that was not done, then it does not bind.
It's not. That's what we are distinguishing.
It is not necessary.
That it was a memorandum of understanding, which they said is not a coalition agreement. Meaning, they are not legally obligated to give it to the registrar of political parties. They did a framework for purposes of operations and work.
Like a gentleman.
That was not like a gentleman. In fact, they were keen to distinguish it and say this is not a coalition.
As much as I want to agree with Wakili, let her also tell us very clearly here, where is it coming from? Where
is there any legal backing to that?
Where is it anchored? We agree that actually there is such a mutual agreement, but based on what? Any standing order?
It is not based on any law. It is based on the political reality
expediency
that we found ourselves in. And politics.
We can call it a jungle. Because it's not where you know.
That's why one of the principals says he's not in government. And the other partner expects them to be in government.
This is it is born largely out of political realities that the Kenya Kwanza government found itself in. And my party leader has been very consistent that he's not the one who approached the president. It is the president who approached him. And you know what happened? And that is why Mheshimiwa Kakuya wants to find it in law. You can't find it in law. It is a political arrangement, which is not anywhere in law.
We should not expect clarity.
It's a convenience.
But Idimuli, for sure.
So probably we're doing something wrong in seeking clarity in this.
No, you are not doing wrong. If you're right.
Even Raila Odinga insisting that he's not in government, we should not probe further. We should
you should. You should.
Whether the former Prime Minister was the one who was owed, actually, he had obligation to stand firm and say, no, I cannot mix myself with these.
Let me clarify. Let me clarify.
Let us not say that it's to confuse Kenyans here.
Let me clarify something.
Later was owed. Later was ready to join the government, the bed with the government, because surely nobody forced him.
Okay.
Let me disclose something.
You said you're clarifying for us.
Yes.
Okay.
We've had occasion to have a sitting with the Honorable Raila Odinga, our party leader. And let me tell Kenyans that if there was ever a patriot in this country, then it is Raila Odinga, because he tells us that it got to a point where he had to come in to help stabilize the country, because at that point, things were going wrong. And so, in as much as Honorable Gakuya may laugh, it was a question of deciding whether to let the country slip into abyss or save the country.
Okay.
That is what he told us, according to him. At least he has told me that.
Stabilizing the government of the day.
At least he has told me that.
Stabilizing the government of the day without being in government.
Yes.
So that's where the confusion comes in.
Fred, let me say this. You know, what we are having is a very healthy conversation, and this is what Kenyans should have. A conversation where we are arguing on ideas, ideologies, and what people are doing, whether we agree with them or not, what leaders are signing, whether we are comfortable with it or we are not as Kenyans. It's a very healthy conversation. Why is it healthy? Because in place of what we saw on 25th of June, our youths running to the streets, very uncomfortable and very disgruntled. Let's always have political arrangements that makes everybody safe to walk in this Republic of Kenya. And what we must also say is this, if you look at the factions that came together, even with this arrangement, they are very representative of very many Kenyans, because look at the number of Kenyans who voted for Kenya Kwanza. Look at the number of Kenyans who voted for Azimio candidate. If you put those two together, I think you'll have a very cool, say, 15...
But what happens to our definition of democracy?
14.
Are we still a democracy?
Yes, we are. We are still a democracy, but the Kenyan politics are very unique, Fred.
So
every day it evolves into something that you did not anticipate yesterday. Because, for instance, if you look at 2022, when I was the Secretary General of UD, I would not even have imagined that at some point we would be seated with my friend here, Maduko.
Defending the same government.
On the same side, like defending the same government. But I think it's interesting. It's good to watch it. Okay. And it then tells you, even when you're in politics, don't overfight people. Don't find me somewhere doing a rally and what you're doing is causing agitation and telling people to lift and beat me up. Because tomorrow, the same person who is saying, beat up this gentleman who was beaten the other day, Salasia, Honorable Salasia. Lift Salasia because we don't agree with him and his views are not popular. Don't tell people to do that, because that Salasia tomorrow will be the one having the best of times with both the President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga. Let's give ourselves space always. We can argue on ideas, but let's not go to the limit of overfighting or over agitation that takes our nation down.
Thank you for introducing that.
I think Honorable Gakuya has had that. Don't overfight. You could join us.
Easy.
The standard,
not overfighting.
I'm understanding with the facts.
Yes. The standard has raised concern that there's a growing wave of political intolerance. With all this confusion, not knowing where ODM or Raila Odinga is, whether in government or not, there's still a lot of political intolerance. And it's so fluid that we do not know, as the Senator says, who will be where next. If you could talk to this, about this, because we've seen instances where even the Deputy President...
And we highly condemn it.
And the spouse of the former Deputy President was also... The event was... some goons attacked the same event sometime last month. If you could comment on this issue.
In fact, in the morning, we must rise above those petty politics. And for sure, I am not of the opinion that any Kenya should suffer. And any Kenya can stand against any other Kenyans anytime. Because for sure, these are just politics. Our leaders comes and go. Tomorrow we will be having a president exited from power because there has to be an exit point at one point. And another president will come in. And we do not want to see a micromanaging that actually we must go bitter to elements of witch hunting a retired president. This should not be the way to go. But you see, if we want to press to press people and also do wrong things when you are in power, except even in your retirement, you must also face this kind of things to hunt you. So I think when you are in power, just use the power in the manner it requires. Just serve the people, because the mandate you are given by the people is serve the people. Don't witch hunt people. Leave people alone. The incidents that we are overseeing during Gachagwa's Remuru and Nyeri and everywhere is usage of what we call Mongeke youth, which is completely out of space. Why do you want to bring back goons that are already, their resort? That there are people who cannot bring anything good to the country. But you want to go down to bring them back so that they can hunt people and they can be able to create confusion. Why do we go to this direction? It is wrong, because there is no way you can have this team of Mungeke terrorizing in the presence of police. How can this be? If the government, if the state is not in the blessing of the same, we should not see the state going this election. It is stooping too low.
Okay. There's a concern that it's 2.5 years to election day, but you're seeing the political temperatures rising to this level, political intolerance at this level. As you said, things could change before 2026.
Yeah, from the onset, let me condemn such acts of violence, and also at the same time castigate those who have hired or have arranged youth to disrupt other politicians' events. They say politics is a dirty game, but I want to differ and say that some of us have gone into politics with clean hands. And we don't expect the same to be done to us, because we don't do it ourselves. You don't gain political mileage, especially where I come from, in Nyaribari, Masaba or Kisii, by hiring goons and doing disruptions and doing all those things. You get political mileage by the act of persuasion and making your agenda straightforward and winning the other people to your side. But having said that, also, we must tell the government, and especially the police, that they have no reason not to nip this at the bud. Or even after such an event, we expect to see those who attacked Honorable Salasia being arraigned in court, so that it can be a deterrent. When these people go scot-free, then tomorrow they would repeat the same acts of goonism. But more than that, I want to think that the highest office in the land should come out and order that these acts are curtailed. We have seen this also in Kisii County. In Kisii County, we have traces of goonism, which we cannot allow to grow or germinate, because then in the next election, they'll be used as a weapon. And that is why the other day I condemned even the violence in Transmara, at the border of Transmara and Kisii, because that affects us directly. But also, I think our youth need to be a bit careful when they are hired, because then they're also at risk. You could get injured for a simple
what about the assured of their protection?
Or 300 shillings, Fred, if you look at the seeds of the war in Rwanda, I worked in Rwanda for some time. It was very simple things that started or that eventually grew into the genocide. And one of them was, of course, the media, negative media. And the second was having armed militia. And if you read the history of that war, you'll actually see that it is possible that this can become a monster that we cannot be able to slay.
Yes. Is the audacity to attack a member of the National Assembly without consequence that is more glaring, that no one has been arrested, despite videos showing exactly who attacked the honorable member? If that is left to continue that way, 2 years before the election, this could simply very easily boil up into something else.
I think one of the things we need to refuse to tolerate any further is attempts to use violence as a means of ascending to power or controlling power.
Correct.
Weaponizing goons and using the youths to disrupt. If our candidates in UDA and honorable my colleague here is here, Gakuya is here, if they can remember very well, we were completely very strict at the party if anybody was caught disrupting another candidate's rally, because the minute you excuse this manner of behavior, first, you have already said, if you are not muscled enough to fight out your position in the arrangement, the power arrangement, then you don't belong to that equation. So immediately you introduce violence, you have eliminated 50% of the candidates, that being women. Number two, it's against the law. It's against the penal code, against the criminal procedure, it's against the constitution, it's an abuse, a gross abuse of human rights. So it's completely unacceptable. And if you ask me, it is one of the worst forms of trying to ascend to power. And if we are serious about barring candidates and barring politicians who are hiring goons to control other zones and control regions, then we'll be able to stand up and tell the registrar of political parties, can you now put up a list of shame together with the Iebc? Put a list of shame, and a list where all those candidates we demand is prosecution, not encouragement to ascend into high offices. Right. And for the youths are so well resourced in Kenya. If you looked at the Gen Z and what they did and the kind of information they keep sharing on social media, our youths are so well resourced that they must refuse to be used by politicians who are too bad and too leaned on violence to allow them to succeed. Youths must not allow wrong politicians to succeed by accepting to be paid to do things that are very wrong. So I want to condemn the attack on Salasia. And I also want to condemn an attack I saw in public in a funeral. A woman, it was trending yesterday, a woman who was so bullied and harassed and beaten up by adult men. Can you imagine that, Freddie Dimuli? In this day and time, in a funeral, a normal funeral arrangement, a burial. She had gone there, I think they had separated with the husband, but had children together, I think 3 or 2 children, and she took the children to pay the last respect to their father. And what did the adult men do? Not all of them, but some of them, a very huge gun, really mishandled that woman, beat her up so senseless, pushed her into a tea plantation, and it's happening in broad daylight on account of a certain culture, which is so repugnant to morality, repugnant to the constitution, and totally unacceptable. I think the space we are watching, we need to be very intolerant, and Kenyans must now mark people who are causing this mayhem. Right. It should stop. And it doesn't matter against who, Fred. Whether it's against Kenya Kwanza, whether it's against Rigathi Gachagua, whether it's against Salasia, whether it's against Veronica Maina, against Gakuya or against Manduku, it's unacceptable. Okay. Even the booing of the president, let me say this, it is very bad manners. We have visitors there, and all some people are doing. You don't dignify the office of the president. You may not even like the president, but dignify that office of the presidency. All right. Let him perform his functions, because if this country goes down, we go down with it. Yes. We don't want to walk that journey.
Indeed, there are reports of the chants must go in clubs and must go in sporting events. It's there on the story on page 5, the continued chants of RUTO must go, continuing in very different arenas. And yes, the Standard taking note of the growing political intolerance. The big headline on the front page, goons go on rampage, and they have actually chronicled some of the events that have happened over the last 2 or 3 months or so. Let's move on now to our last discussion this morning. And it is indeed a big discussion. Yesterday it was on most of the cartoons, and it's the anticipated trip to the Mount Kenya region by President William Ruto. It is on at least one of the cartoons, a caricature of the president on top of his car driving towards the mountain. It is part of the stories covered here at TV47 as well. The president had a meeting with the leaders from the Mount Kenya region in preparation for that meeting, for the trip, but 2 individuals missed out. That's a CS, Justin MUTURI, and Nyeri Governor Mutahi KAHIGA. They snubbed President William Ruto's Mount Kenya meeting. Let's watch that story.
The Monday meeting between the president and governors from the Mount Kenya region comes ahead of his tour of the mountain. The meeting was also attended by cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries from the region, among them Agriculture CS Mutai Kagwe, ICT Cabinet Secretary William Kabogo, Lands Alice Wahome, Eric Muga of Water and Irrigation, as well as Rebecca Miano of Tourism. Notable Nyeri Governor Mutai KAHIGA, an ally of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, snubbed the meeting at State House, Nairobi. Public Service CS Justin MUTURI was also conspicuously missing at a meeting convened by President William Ruto at State House. In a statement, President Ruto said that the meeting was meant to align the national and county government's priorities to accelerate development agenda, effectively address the needs of the people, and drive inclusive growth. He added that the meeting discussed key programs and the project that the government is implementing to spur the region's socio-economic transformation. The meeting comes just days after the president met members of parliament loyal to him in a similar meeting. The MPs are said to have agreed on the tour and the agenda.
Ati president amekuja Mount Kenya, wengine wanasema akija sijui tutafanya nini. The president is coming. First of all, it is his right to be anywhere in this country. Tunakuja mikutano ya hadhara mbele ya watu, tusikize watu, wale watu tuliomba kura, ile ahadi tuliwaelezea na tutaweka ahadi nyingine.
President Ruto's tour of the region is part of his ongoing efforts to woo the region following the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Over the weekend, Gachagua met his allies in what was described as a housekeeping meeting, which also discussed the tour. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Managakuya, I can see that you were part of those people in Nyeri at the church service that was to be attended by President William Ruto, but he failed to show up as well. That would have formed probably, or would have set the tone for this anticipated trip by the president. Why do you think the president failed to show up?
Let me say one thing, is that depending on what politics has been shaping, head of state is shy anytime to share a platform with his former deputy president. And I don't expect there will be such an event in future. Up to the end of his tenure, because it's like thorn in the flesh. And remember, there was his first visit when himself and the former president were hosted in Embu. If we could be able to check the seating arrangement around the VIP, we had the former president seated, but the former deputy president was nowhere. That means to his mind, he cannot even allow to sit anywhere next. Mm-hmm. And that's how their relationship has gone sway. At this point in time, that particular ordination of Nyeri Bishop, surely, noting that Gachagua was allowed, the president could not have stepped there. Mm-hmm. And that's how their relationship is. But that, to me, I would say, this is not how it should be. Because in politics, we don't hurt each other. So I don't think, whether we share a platform or not, you have your own, as a head of state, it is your prerogative to choose where to go and where not. And for sure, do you want to tell me, if Gachagua decides to be in the part of your tour of Mount Kenya, would you chase him away?
Wow.
Would you chase him away? If he decides now, you are in Mount Kenya, and he decides to be in your tourage, would you chase him away? So I can tell you for sure, the head of state should at least build to adopt how to move on with his former deputy president.
But that hesitation spoke a lot. It was very loud, coming only a week before his planned trip. This definitely is perhaps the hardest trip for President William Ruto anywhere in this country.
Fred, for a region that propelled the president into power by giving him a whooping 87% of their vote, it is very difficult to try and regain the confidence that the region gave the president. That is a fact. And that is why you're seeing there has to be ground preparations by meeting the members of parliament, meeting the executive, and then planning a trip, which I think in his view, he feels they should own and make the program smoother. I've always said it here that I personally think that our friends from Mount Kenya sometimes demand too much from the president.
We demand more than Laila?
And let me tell you, let me give you my facts. Probably it is because they have had 3 heads of state, or is it the proximity to Nairobi? There's one thing they never understand, and I want to say it here, that their region is immensely blessed, endowed with capital, hardworking people, maybe to the detriment of other regions. In my constituency, I still have grass-thatched homes. I haven't had a single kilometer of tarmac in the last 15 years. And so if I was the president, and because they behave like jilted lovers, I would make other friendships stronger. Because at the end of the day, it's about numbers.
You don't find the necessity of this trip by the president to the region?
Well, it is. It is, of course it is. But I think if I was the president, I would leave them first. First, make other friends. That we are coming in, we should be embraced, eh? As they behave like jilted lovers. Because you'll see, he'll go there tomorrow, and he'll dish out goodies to them, and they will not even appreciate. Let him come to Kisii. Let him come to Kisii and give out one goodie. We'll appreciate that. And we'll promise that we'll support him.
Okay. But can the president really afford not going there?
Let me say this, eh? You know, the central region and the Mount Kenya is a region which is a darling to the president. Number one, the vote-rich base of Mount propelled the president to presidency.
Agreed.
You can imagine if you subtract the votes that came from the central province, the central region, what would you be left with in that basket? The competition would have been a totally different story. Now, the president knows that. He's very smart. He knows that. He also knows that this is a region that actually failed to listen to the former president on the issues of voting in 2022, listened to him and actually pushed him and propelled him to power. It would be very unwise and unstrategic for the president to ignore such a region. Number two, I want you to look at the economy in Kenya and look at the kind of taxes that are paid by that region. Because sometimes we make development appear, and this is where I would differ with my colleague here, we make development appear as though it has to sort of be given, you know, like it's like you're being given free of charge. It's not being given free of charge. If you look at the coffee, the tea, what the region is producing, the workforce, and different economic activities that are happening within that region, and the share of that tax that is being paid from that region to the kitty, the national kitty, the coffers in the treasury, then you will know that even the region holds a sway on that pass. So when the president now decides to go to the region to interact once again with his vote-rich base, it should be a natural progression. And I would really ask the president to be very cautious what advice he's receiving regarding the region. But to me, he seems clear in his mind that, first of all, they were part of the equation, and we contributed a lot. I was a Secretary General. We contributed a lot. 47% of the total vote base in the mountain region is the one that pushed the president, close to 50%. So it's not a region that he can just overlook.
But
and he gave promises. He gave promises to the region based on the support that he received. But I want to say something. Is it only the central region that has been given focus by different governments? I would say no. And yesterday I saw something circulating from Irongo Nyakera which was responding to what Honorable Kaluma had suggested, that looking like Mount Kenya is very spoiled because they are given a lot of development. I want to say this. If you look at the SGR, if I look at that post that was done, the Lamu Port, if you look at Dongokudu bypass, if you look at Mombasa kwa Jomvu dual carriage, if you look at Kipevu Oil Terminal, Nairobi Expressway, you look at Outer Ring, you look at Isiolo Moyale Highway, you look at Siaya Bondo Water Project. In fact, I'm reading what was circulated yesterday. Look at the Eastern Bypass, Ahero Interchange. All those are not developments which are within that region. Meaning what? Other parts of Kenya are developing. And indeed, I want to affirm, every part of Kenya is entitled to development. And the faster we develop all parts, by the way, in Dimuli, is the better it will be for our nation. Because we want to leave Nairobi, go to Turkana, and come back and be able to use the resources in Turkana as Kenyans, use the resources in Mombasa as Kenyans. If you look at the port, the gateway to East Africa, our port at Mombasa, one cannot say this should belong to a region alone. And that's why myself, I believe in economic development for the 47 counties. Because when you go and find a family that is really struggling in Baringo, we were in Baringo the other day, that family is struggling in Baringo. I have equally many families in Murang'a, which I have seen, Murang'a County, where I come from, very, very poor and struggling, trying to make ends meet. So what we need to do is to stop focusing on balkanization of one region and to stop seeing like others are not being, for me to be developed, I have to take away from Kisii. That is the wrong approach.
Yeah, that narrative is already there,
the wrong
especially
approach.
on social media.
But what we also need to do is this. If you look at some of the countries, how they handle their economics, they will have boroughs out in the European Union. They'll have boroughs, for instance, or they have regions that compete within one another. For instance, if you are generating so much tax from this base, you build that base to make sure it generates more. Don't discourage them. Encourage them so that whatever is coming as a tax base widens if they have an avenue of making money.
Right.
But our approach to politics are so different that normally we will say, why did you take that to Nyeri or to Murang'a or to Kirinyaga?
But definitely the
you
president
look at
has to come to Mount Kenya with something.
He has to, because these are voters who voted for him. These are Kenyans who are paying tax. And it is okay for a road to be built within the mountain. It's okay for a road to be built within the Kisii.
Right.
What I find defeating is when you think, if I take away from Turkana, then I get it in Lamu. That's a self-defeating argument, which we should have a different approach.
The president definitely cannot.
We should have equitable distribution of resources and respect the basis from where this tax is being paid.
In Dimuri, this is for sure. And the tradition of the head of state, whenever he has toured in this country, he has not gone empty-handed. And taking consideration that this is the base which stood heavily with him at the hour of need, I believe his vision, his thought is quite correct, that he cannot dismiss that region. Because at the time of need, that region never failed him. And at the time, because he is now in power, whatever mix of politics that come in the midway, that should not lose him the focus to forget what he learned from that particular region and their constituents. And therefore, the need be, whether he is expecting a return in terms of vote by his re-election or not, he has a duty to give back. And for sure, I want also buy the sentiments of our Wakili, that for sure, it is also important in our way of making our economic grow. You should give back where you are getting your harnessing a lot. Because if you fail to do so, how do you expect to get more tomorrow? Mm-hmm. So in order for you to get more, to harvest more tomorrow, you should plow back and make sure that if it is road, to make sure that the goods comes from the farm to the market, it is okay. But we cannot stand to say you have eaten a lot and you don't deserve more, and therefore your business.
Fred,
let me direct this.
Fred,
we have about 7 minutes.
For the first time,
2.5 minutes for your final.
For the first time, Honorable Gakuya and Senator Veronica have agreed. When it comes to benefits to the people, they seem to agree. Anything else, they disagree. What I'm saying is this. The mountain region has had historical advantages. And so we are not starting on the same footing.
You need to visit the
when
mountain.
You come,
Manduku, I'll take you to Ghana for a balanced perspective.
Please do.
You have 2.5 minutes only for your final comments.
My final comment will not be politics. There's something that we missed as a country, which to me was a significant milestone for Africa. The election of Katsi Coventry as the president of the International Olympic Committee. I'm happy because for the first time, a lady, aged 41, is heading the biggest organization in sports. I'm a sports lover. I'm a father of daughters. And I want to confirm that going by that win, the mythical glass ceiling was shattered. In fact, in her own words, she says she never believed she would be there. My advice to our ladies is to work hard and break those ceilings consistently, especially my daughters. But more than that, I want to encourage Senator Veronica here that you seem to have slept on the job as women leaders because we still have not enacted the 2/3 gender rule. It will be significant for us to purposely work on that. We stop about mambo ya Gachagua na mambo ingine. We focus on having our women in leadership. And that's why I always get mad when they attack control of budget or Auditor General or even the Chief Justice, just because they are women. So I'm telling our women in Kenya that the win by this lady is very significant. I've been following sports for the last 20 years. Gone are the days of Joan Samaranch, Antonio Samaranch. And now we have a lady, an African, never mind she's white, heading the biggest organization in sports. You should take advantage of that and make legislation so that come the next decade, we can host the Olympics in Africa.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mama.
Now, thank you for giving me a challenge on the 2/3 gender rule. But I want to tell you, it has gone to Parliament about 12 times and failed. And I want to throw the challenge or share the challenge with you, Honorable Manduku. The reason why it failed is because our Parliament has more men than women. And so when the vote goes into the gender rule or gender bill, it fails because the women we have in Parliament, the numbers are not enough to clinch us 2/3. So I want to challenge you to help us when we come to Parliament next time, because the gender bill is under enactment right now, that we get the support of men, get the support of the broad-based government, so that we can at least pass this and assure the women of Kenya they are part of the population and part of equation. But my parting shot is this. My heart goes out to this woman in Kisii or Nyamira, one of those two counties, who was roughed up by adult men. And I want to call out, if that sister of ours is anywhere near, please reach out to Kewosa, reach out to Kewopa. We want to just stand by you. And we want to request Manduku, Honorable Manduku, together with all the MPs who are in Nyamira and Kisii, to please give a presser and denounce and refuse that cultural practice that is forcing the woman to either throw the soil or not throw the soil. When their late husband is being buried, if they say it has implications, that culture must be denounced. And on my own behalf and on behalf of all the women parliamentarians, we denounce that culture and say that it's repugnant to morality, it's repugnant to the Constitution. We don't want it. And those men who did that to that woman should be brought to book. Those criminals, actually.
Yes, police reports indicate that some of them may have been arrested as we speak.
Yes, we need an accountability on it.
Finally, Nagakuya, final.
My final short is that the state is high time that you must toe the line. Don't misuse our youth. Don't allow goons to take the control of this country. It will also tomorrow be against you. And let us do what is required and what is within the law. And let us not try to buy any outside mechanism that will bring tarnish all the peace of this country. Let us see peace now, tomorrow, and future. And as leaders, let us not be having vendetta that it is me, and because it's me, I must make sure that I will sign you, and I must use goons to expel you. This should not be the way of them. The next thing is that our security agencies, police, don't be misused. Why are you allowing goons to do the business of tarnishing attacking other rallies when you are in presence, then there is no need of you to be there. If you are away from those particular scenes, then we could say that the police were away. But when you are there and you are witnessing all the actions taken by goons, it is wrong. And the finger is directed to you. I cross my mouth.
Thank you so much. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Senator Veronica Maina, and Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba. Our panelists this morning on State of the Nation, and thank you that we've actually handled
and
about
we welcome the President to the Mount region to come in with a basket of development.
Oh, yes.
The road infrastructure to be completed. We have incomplete projects, and we are looking forward to even supporting the coffee and the tea industry.
Not only the Mount region.
Yes. If you come to Kisii,
the project sana.
We are also going to Kisii.
The much anticipated.
They are part of Kenya.
Oh, yeah.
You see now.
They are part of Kenya.
The much anticipated trip to the mountain region by President William Ruto. Of course, great debate. Thank you so much for your time at TV47. After the break, my colleague Ann Odida is ready with this conversation on myopia and technology. And we're coming to you. We're discussing our digital habits hurting our eyes. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. To all our viewers, good morning. Handing over to you, Ann.
All right, that's the conversation we'll be having starting 8 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. Myopia and technology are our digital habits hurting our eyes. That's the conversation you're having this morning. Of course, stay with us after the break.